Hey guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. This is your host Thomas Irie from On the Hop Podcast. Today, I have some bonus content for you guys. The bonus content we'll be covering today will be in the sport of basketball inside the NBA world. In today's bonus segment, I'll be sharing my thoughts on the Milwaukee Bucks firing Adrian Griffin. So, of course, as the news broke earlier in the week, Adrian Griffin is now the ex-head coach of the Milwaukee Bucks. A few days ago, the Milwaukee Bucks decided to part ways with Adrian Griffin and fire Adrian Griffin. And this was his first season as an NBA head coach and his first season coaching with the Milwaukee Bucks. So when the time came earlier in the week when Adrian Griffin was fired from the Milwaukee Bucks, he was actually at the top of the food chain in the Eastern Conference. They currently had 30 wins, 12 losses, and they were the second best team in the Eastern Conference when the Milwaukee Bucks decided to fire Adrian Griffin earlier in the week. So I do see why Adrian Griffin was fired from the Milwaukee Bucks. I do see where the franchise is coming from in their decision of firing Adrian Griffin. Offensively, they were obviously one of the best teams in the league, and that's supposed to happen when you have Giannis, one of the best players in the NBA, alongside of him, Damian Lillard, one of the best point guards of this generation. You still have Chris Middleton, who is very dependable when he's healthy on the basketball court as well, really a reliable shooter. You have Brook Lopez, a great center that can get you rebounds and can spread out the floor shooting. He's a great perimeter shooter as well. And Bobby Portis could do his thing when he's on the floor as well. So offensively, they were supposed to be a good offensive team, but defensively is where the problem was for the Milwaukee Bucks. You got to be consistent on both sides of the court. And defensively, they were ranked 21st in the league under Adrian Griffin, allowed 116 points per game. That just cannot happen. You can't be consistent on the offensive side and then defending the ball. Cannot do that. I mean, not good on the defensive side of the ball. You cannot do that in the NBA. And losing Jrue Holiday, yes, you knew the defense would take a hit once they traded away Jrue Holiday to get Damian Lillard. But we all knew the defensive production would have taken a hit. But allowing your opponents to score 116 points per night, Adrian Griffin never adjusted as the season went along on how the Milwaukee Bucks can improve their defense, because you have a former defensive player of the year in Giannis. You have Brook Lopez, who's a good defender. Bobby Portis is a decent defender at best. So you have these guys. There's no excuse why you can't be consistent on both sides of the court. And I think the Milwaukee Bucks seen the issue, which could have derailed them as the season went on for their defensive problems on the defensive side of the court. So it really is sad to see Adrian Griffin fired this early in his first season in the NBA. And like I said, a lot of people may disagree with the decision of them deciding to fire him. When he was fired at the time, they had 30 wins, 12 losses, the second best team in the Eastern Conference. But it's basketball, and these things happen, and it's really unfortunate that Adrian Griffin at least didn't even make it to the NBA All-Star weekend. He didn't even get to the halfway point of his rookie season as an NBA head coach. So we'll see what Adrian Griffin does later on in the NBA, whether he gets a head coaching position or not in the future. Time will tell to see where he goes. But I'll be sharing my thoughts on the Milwaukee Bucks deciding to sign Doc Rivers as their new head coach. So I really think it's really strange to bring in Doc Rivers as the new head coach for the Milwaukee Bucks. I think this is a really strange hire, and a really strange hire to do it in the month of January in the NBA season. The Milwaukee Bucks signed Doc Rivers to a contract through 2026 to 2027. The contract deal is worth up to $40 million. Mind-blowing that Doc Rivers was an NBA announcer just a few months ago for the NBA season, and now fast forward to the month of January, and he's taken over the Milwaukee Bucks, one of the best teams in the NBA and the second best team in the Eastern Conference. It's truly mind-blowing. But Doc Rivers, we all know what Doc Rivers brings to the table. I mean, he's a former NBA champion, won that title with the Boston Celtics back in 2008 with the glory days of Rajon Rondo, Kevin Garnett, and Ray Allen, etc. But he's had talented players over the last few years, and ever since then, he really hasn't gotten over the hump. You look at his track record of what's happened since he's been a coach since 2013. He's had talented players like Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, Joel Embiid, James Harden, Tyrese Maxey, and he's failed to reach the Eastern or Western Conference since the 2012 NBA season. So that's mind-boggling to me that the Milwaukee Bucks really trust Doc Rivers to carry the load and carry them to the promised land when you have Giannis and Damian Lillard, a dynamic duo in Milwaukee. Will he be the reason why Giannis and Damian Lillard possibly never win a title in Milwaukee? Because you're going to keep him for a long time, and he's already set on record. This is going to be a tough task for me to handle coming in the almost at the midway point of the NBA season, having to bring in his offensive game plan, bring in a coaching style to fit for Giannis, Damian Lillard, Brook Lopez, Chris Middleton, Bobby Portis Jr. This is going to be a difficult task. So we're going to see at the end of the season whether this was a good decision or not. And to me, the season will be a failure if the Milwaukee Bucks cannot at least get to the Eastern Conference Finals, because in this Eastern Conference, you have the Boston Celtics, you have the Philadelphia 76ers, who could be contenders if they get one more piece in Philadelphia, but they're playing outstanding this year. The Miami Heat, I don't care what their record is in the regular season, they're a completely different team in the postseason. They always turn it up a notch. The East is loaded, and you can't sleep on teams like the Cavaliers, the New York Knicks. The Eastern Conference is loaded, so I think it's a failure realistically if the Milwaukee Bucks cannot at least get to the Eastern Conference Finals. And we're gonna look on this decision if bringing in Doc Rivers was the decision or was a right decision, and if realistically if he will hold this team back from at least getting to the Eastern Conference or NBA Finals run this year. But those are my thoughts on the Bucks firing Adrian Griffin, and those are my thoughts on Doc Rivers being hired as the next head coach for the Milwaukee Bucks. But that is all the time I have for you guys today. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. This is your host, Thomas Irie, signing off, and I'll see you guys on next week's episode.